God.
God is good. No, again,
Yes.
God murders because of genocide. That's
No,
not good.
God does not murder people. Murder is unjustified killing. God does not murder.
Oh, no, it's not justified to kill a baby.
I'm asking for your standard, Craig. You keep asserting these
I've given you my
values.
standard. Murder is bad.
By what standard are you saying is that bad? And
By
it's
the
not.
fact
makes
that
common sense.
I don't need to know going to hell means that it's bad. I know that it's bad because I know it will cause suffering to other people. I know that because I am not evil. If you have to wonder why murder is bad, then that is a problem with you and the fact that
God
you
doesn't
like
murder.
to follow an evil deity. God does murder.
doesn't
He
murder.
murdered babies.
No,
God
he
murdered babies. God murdered
God does
babies.
not murder. God murder
God
is
murdered babies. You can't deny this. God murdered
murder is
babies.
an unjustified
God murdered
killing.
babies.
Murder
It's
is
not
hold on.
justified to
Okay,
kill a baby. It's not justified to kill a baby.
Craig, 1 second. I think you said it 3 times in a row, Craig, that God murdered babies. But we gotta be able to hear what your opponent is saying. If you just keep shouting God murdered babies,
Apologies.
we can't hear
keep saying that
his
it's not
rebuttal.
God didn't murder. Yeah.
So
Because
we
I continue to.
we can't, if you just keep shouting over him, we can't hear him. So we need to hear from Luigi for about 30 seconds, and then we'll come back to you, Craig, for 30 seconds as well.
Okay, I keep asking Craig for his standard of why any of this is wrong. Who is he to say that this is a unjustified killing that God is committing? Who is he to say that? And how is it any different in his paradigm than a tiger eating his prey? He said, "Oh, that's a tiger doesn't have the ability to choose." Like,
Yes.
what are these ambiguous standards that he's just making up? Who determines that? Oh, the ability to choose is what makes killing justified or unjustified? Who makes these rules? Is it just Craig? Who makes these rules?
Yes, it is me. I made the rule, but again, we all know what good and that killing is bad.
Oh, whoops. But yeah, we all just know it. We all just know it that killing is bad. We all know it. So therefore, since everybody knows it, it must be bad. Impressive work there, Craig. You know what? I got to give you this. You deserve it. If I can find it, should have had this prepared, but here you go. Just for you, bud. Just for you. He really does a great job at demonstrating how ridiculous secular humanism is. He really does a fantastic job. Like, a lot of people like to call him, stupid and all this stuff, and he's a bit of a hyper loudmouth who interrupts his opponent and is completely disrespectful. But you know what? He does a fantastic job at demonstrating how ridiculous their worldview is. It's bad because it's bad, man. It's bad. It's just bad. That's my standard. It's bad. Gotta say, easy Luigi W on that one. Like, but anyways, how is it going? Welcome to Strange Days Podcast. I am Ricky Kurtz. Because you know what? We are living in strange days. Everything seems to be upside down. I don't get it. I don't like it. So I'm just going to laugh at it. A little ha-ha. A little hee-hee. Just roll with the punches. Yeah, pretty much. That's how I feel. But in this episode or video, I don't know if I'm going to continue calling them episodes. I don't know. I've just done that because, it's easy numbering them and all that stuff. But I might just give the videos a title. I don't think I'm going to do episode anymore. But in this video that I am recording right now, I'm going to be doing a review on a debate between I can't even remember the atheist name. I think it was like Jared or something like that. I don't think he has a presence on YouTube or anything like that. But he's a Satanist, and he went against Jake Rattlesnake on Modern Day Debates, Secular Humanism versus Christianity. And Jared made typical atheist arguments that I keep on mentioning in here. So I just wanted to go through it and, review it and laugh at him and call him an idiot. So that's what I'm going to do. But first, before we get to anything else, go ahead and do all the good YouTube stuff. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And share the video. Do all that good YouTube stuff. Because you gotta make those likes do this. Just make them rain down like hellfire. Yeah, just a big old thumbs up. It's what YouTube likes. Also, head over to strangedays.substack.com. It's my Substack. I've written a lot of articles. You can find some pretty good stuff on there. It's strange with a 3 instead of an E. days.substack.com. You can also follow me on Twitter, or X if you want to call it that, at r_wing_hoosier, or just look at my name, Ricky Kurtz. It's easy. I mean, just do that. Yeah, but my Substack. Get into stuff. I also did this new background layout, whatever you want to call it, for the podcast. I like it a little bit. I like it a little bit better. And just having the smoke, it's kind of like that eerie light in the back. I like it. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. But yeah, so it's been a while since I made a video. And of course, everybody knows Trump has won the election. He is now our president, which is awesome. And I made a little song. I made a little song for the crybabies on the left who think that it's so appropriate to, get their phone out, film themselves crying, and post it on the internet. But hey, keep on doing it. Provides us great entertainment. Let's go ahead and take a look at this little video that I made.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
I do want to make a comment on here. A lot of people were talking about this, and of course, since I'm late to the show, but everybody was commenting about how he didn't put his hand on the Bible, like people normally do when they're being sworn into office. But as you can see from this video, they started swearing him in before Melania and the rest of his family showed up. And you can even see just from that video right there, she was kind of looking like she wanted to say, hey, I got the Bible right here. Put your hand on it. But, it already happened. I don't think it's a big deal. I think people were blowing it a bit out of proportion. But, yeah, just a random thought that popped into my head. Let's proceed.
Will, to the best of my ability.
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
So no, I didn't put this part of the video together. I added in the inauguration to the front of it. But this video was compiled by Dissident Media. He's the one that compiled all these lefty lunatics just losing their minds and posting it to the internet. So he got that. I just added in the inauguration part, and I made the song. I was gonna put my voice singing on it. I did sing it out, but then I used technology to distort the sound because I thought it sounded funnier. But let me know in the comments what you think of it. Cope and Seed losers, Trump's your daddy. Look at this guy. What the fuck? What are you doing, dude? It makes it all the better with Trump in the background just dancing. Oh, this chick.
It's alright.
It's not alright.
It's alright. I feel that way too. It's alright. We feel that way together, okay? Let it out. Let it out.
Cope and Seed, Cope and Seed, Cope and Seed, some more, 'cause Trump is your daddy. Oh crap! What'd you do? I didn't realize that I didn't realize it was in there. Oh my gosh, so terrible. Oh, but yeah, just a little video I put together. I was slightly impressed with it. Let me see. What do I want to start with? I'm a professional, guys. Oh, I saw this video before we start getting into these retarded atheists. I in some way I can't blame them for doubting Christianity because of the various forms and I'm right next to a railroad, so let's take a look at one of his videos.
Religion is not some innocent game adults play. Religion is evil and abusive. When I point out the lies and abusive aspects of religion, people tell me to leave them alone and let them believe what they want. But that's like saying I should ignore a man who believes beating his wife and children is his right.
Now I would agree that that's wrong, but Mr. Jeff, for truth, would you care to elaborate on where you get a standard for why that would be bad? Like I mean, what if his wife like really burnt his supper. Like, he's had a hard day at work. You know, he just got done with like a 12-hour shift. He gets home. His wife burnt his supper. I mean, can't he at least give her like a little, like Pastor Ron Howard, or I already forgot his name, but like he just gave her a little bop on the head and she was fine. I mean, would that be okay? Huh? Continue.
I will not ignore abusive behavior. Teaching people to believe lies under threat of eternal torture is evil and abusive.
Why?
Religion ruins lives, and it is my goal to expose all religions, starting with Christianity. I was a Christian for 46 years, then I learned the truth. My book, Jesus Demigod, provides the overwhelming proof that Christianity is a false, man-made religion.
Oh man, this guy wrote a book about it. It's so over for us. So over for us. He wrote a book. He got the truth.
Created by Romans. Get your copy from Amazon and help me rid the world of this cancer.
What an idiot.
You can click the link in my bio or just go to
Yeah, I don't care about your book. But yeah, over in this debate, he sheds a little bit of light on his views on morality. You know, because he was saying that Christianity is evil and he must vanquish this evil because he's so virtuous. He's got a noble cause. But let's take a look.
I don't think that's the claim, but I don't want to hold up too much on this because, again, we got a bunch of callers. I do want to ask Jeff something, though, real quick, and I would try not to take up too much time again here. Sticking with the rights thing, when you say rights can be proven based on observation of abuse and things like that, that is your position, right?
Well, I don't think I use the words rights can be proven, but we can demonstrate that some rights are justified and some are not. So someone may claim that they have a right to own a human, but I believe we could demonstrate that owning other humans is inappropriate.
I hear you. Okay. So, and you are of the belief that morality is subjective, right?
Yeah. Even the God of the Bible is
just literally
subjective morality.
So there's no truth to a moral claim.
There's no truth to a moral claim.
See, it's so funny to me. Like they'll be like, they'll make all these like philosophically loaded terms like evil, bad, you know, all these things, and then their standard comes down to morality it's subjective. Bruh, you understand that by saying that. You're saying that morality does not exist. Like there's almost no point in calling anything bad at that point because it's just subjective. It's, you know, people just have these different understandings of what's good and bad. I mean, why even bring it up? If you're going to admit that other people can have other standards for morality, then why even bring up the moral implications of a certain activity? You just look dumb. You just look dumb. Here.
Okay, now let's try to get an answer from someone who's not a complete retard. Anyone? Come on, don't be shy.
Don't be shy.
Maybe clarify or give an example.
Well, if morality is subjective, then it's preferential. There's no truth value to a moral claim. It's just preferences, right?
So probably on every situation, when we're talking about punching somebody in the face, you say, is it immoral to punch somebody in the face? You say, yes. But then what if these people are getting paid millions of dollars to put boxing gloves on in a ring for entertainment and punch each other in the face? All of a sudden, punching people in the face is not immoral anymore.
Right. So that would speak more to the point that, you know, if morality is subjective.
I mean, also, if, like I said earlier, what if your wife burns your dinner? Can you do it then? Would that be a justification? You know, since it's subjective. Since it's subjective. You know. Could you do it then? Huh?
There's not exactly a truth value inherently on your view to
Correct.
moral claims. So
and even
okay, hold
the God of the
on,
Bible-
Jeff. Hold on. I don't want to take up too much time on this. So what I'm getting at here is if you're saying we can demonstrate rights exist based on an observation of abuse, which is a moral claim, but you can't prove the moral claim, then you also can't justify the demonstration of the right you're saying exists.
No, so
You understand that?
proving something is true and justifying something is totally different. So, we can justify that, defending yourself from a home invader is moral and acceptable and good, even if you had to cause harm to that person. But to prove it, so it's just you're not proving moral stances. You're just justifying moral stances based on circumstances and situations, and they change, based on circumstances.
But there is no truth value to those, correct?
I don't think that I would associate.
So eventually, we could get, since it's subject to change, we could get to a time and place where, punching your wife for burning your supper could be acceptable under your view. Continue.
Truth with morality because it is subjective.
Okay, all right. Is it true that rights exist?
No.
Well, whenever humans get together and establish human rights, then they exist. Before,
is it true that they exist? Is that true?
If humans establish rights, so in other words, the right to live free and not as a slave, that exists because we have a law that ensures that.
I'll just ask one more time, straightforward. Is it true that rights exist?
I would say no. If I understand your question, it is not true that rights exist.
Okay.
Now,
all right.
Based. You get a W there. We'll throw up the W for you. West Side. But it's a W for you because that's based, right? Rights are fake and gay. Continue.
That's good. That's all. That's fine.
Right. And yes, so the abolition of slavery is a right that truly exists, but it only exists because humans codified it.
Okay. I'll just wrap it up with this: is that
So if they codify slavery, is it fine then? Huh? It seems like you got a problem there. That's why depending on the masses to determine what's good or bad, doesn't really work out. You can find a lot of loopholes in it, or not really loopholes, but some flaws in the idea. That's why there's the ad populum fallacy. That's why it's fallacious. Because there was a time, and technically, still today, there's places that say, yeah, slavery is okay. But I mean, you can't really say that they were wrong. You can only say, well, I just don't prefer. I don't prefer people to have slaves.
Think that is a problem based on the standard that you appeal to, in that you presumably would believe in things that are true, but you believe in rights, which you just said are not. They don't truly exist. So it just seems like there's an inconsistency there.
Further, the entailment of it is also that there could be a time in which beating people and abusing them is fine, including if there's no moral truths, then it could actually be justified that if you presuppose God exists from your interrogation, that flooding the world could actually be not immoral based on your own standard. It's not absolutely true because there's no moral facts under your view.
All right, Jeff, you can respond to that if you want, and then we're going to go to callers and super chats.
Let's go callers.
I'm going to use the facilities real quick while you bring in the callers.
Yep, go ahead. So I'm going to weave in super chats.
But yeah, it's just hilarious. They do it every time. Every time, it never fails. They want to say, "Oh, this stuff is so bad, so evil." But morality is subjective, and they're also atheists, so they reject metaphysics. They think it's just purely conceptual, which concepts are also mind dependent, and they can't really tell you what the mind is except for, just essentially brain farts. The mind is just brain farts. It's an emergent property from the brain. So what's the meaningful distinction between the mind and the brain? How is it just not more of the brain? This is why physicalism, naturalism, materialism is absurd and retarded. And we should just point at them and laugh. Because it's the right thing to do. It's just the right thing to do.
Just makes common sense.
Exactly. But let's get into this debate review. Because it's like an hour long. I like Jake. I mean, even though he's an Australian and speaks a little funny, I like him. He's a good guy. I like watching some of the stuff that he does. And I think he handled himself well in this debate. I probably would have lost my patience with this goofy guy that we're going to be watching him debate, but he made some solid arguments. The other guy, not so much. So it should be fun. Let's go ahead and start it up.
Hey everybody! Tonight we're debating Christianity versus secular humanism, and
this guy, James, on Modern Day Debates, he's a goofy guy. Like I think that because like I noticed, because I don't watch too many debates on Modern Day Debates, but I've seen a few of them just because of the people that I follow. On he has another guy, and they both do this like kind of like I want to call it like a cartoonish voice. It's kind of goofy. I want to say they do it that way they could seem like they're unbiased, and it's a way for them to like it's their style of moderating. I don't get it, but take it for what it is. I just think he sounds goofy. But that's just me. Nothing personal against the guy. It's just, welcome to Modern Day Debates.
We're starting right now with Jared's opening statement. Thanks so much for being.
Like it sounds like a game show. He sounds like a game show host. Let's see what's behind door number 2.
Jared, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, Jared, this guy.
Thanks a lot for having me, James. I appreciate it.
I'm gonna play their opening statements at normal speed, but since this is an hour long, I am gonna speed it up after that. But I want to make sure that we get the original voices and the opening statements perfectly laid out. But yeah, let's just go ahead. Let's hear this guy's impressive opening statement.
Jake, nice to meet you, and looking forward to having a good and intelligent discussion here. I am definitely defending the position of secular humanism as being better for society. I don't have a whole lot to say about that we can't just dive right into, but I don't want to make any rebuttals to something that you haven't said yet. I find that to be rude. Realistically,
yeah, but you could just give your opening arguments, what you're going to be arguing for, what you're going to base your arguments on, something like that. A little preparation goes a long way. But you could also do this.
I just feel that secular humanism is a better tool for society.
Oh, I'm glad you feel like that, bud. I'm glad you feel that it's a better tool.
Based on the fact that not everyone is theistic. I personally think that any type of model that someone's using that could potentially condemn someone to suffering and torture for eternity is really not ideal. Beyond that, I do recognize that secular humanism has work to do. It's not a flawless. And
they always do that. Like even the three guys, like Jeff for Truth, the Craig guy in the beginning, they like even other atheists that I've covered in past videos, they always bring up Christianity tells people if you don't do what God commands, you're going to go to hell, and I don't like that. So it's bad. You know, it's not an argument. Just because you don't like it, just because you think it sounds mean, doesn't mean anything. But continue.
Perfect tool, but at the same time, it is better than what we have in most situations. And with that, that's all I have for the intro. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you very much for that opening.
Thank you very
Folks,
much.
if it's your first time here at Modern Day Debate, I'm your host,
much.
Dr. James Coons. I want to welcome you, as Modern Day Debate is a fully neutral channel hosting only debates. Whether you be Christian, atheist, Muslim, Satanist, you name it, we're glad you're here. Hit that subscribe button as we have many more debates coming up. With that,
speaking of which, I want you guys to make sure that you guys hit the like button. Make it rain down like hellfire. And don't forget to subscribe. And hit that notification bell, so you can be notified anytime that I put out content, since obviously I don't do it on a regular basis. Kind of busy. Although this will be my last week driving trucks. Kind of getting sick of it. Not a bad job, but, you know, kind of getting sick of it. So I'm going to move on to other things. I might have more time here in the future to make more content. And maybe I'll be home, so maybe I can just start live streaming this. And then I can get people to come on and I can debate with them. Because I would like that. That's another reason why I'm covering, doing a debate review. Because I would like eventually to get into debating some of these weirdos. Because it seems like a lot of fun. But let's hear Jake's opening statement. I do think it's funny. I just noticed this. But all three of them, their names all start with a J-A. Jared, Jake, James. Just some, maybe go, heh. Kind of funny. Not really. Okay, I'll get back to it. Sorry.
Kicking it over to Jake. Thanks for being with us, Jake. Floor is all yours.
No, thank you, James. The pleasure is all mine, and I do appreciate you having me back on your distinguished channel. I know that you're a doctor now, and it is my honor to be here, James. So I wanted to get into my opening statement. I did have a little bit prepared here. I was a little bit unsure about Jared's position because I haven't seen any of your debates before. I know that you are a Satanist, but the debate is about secular humanism. So I'm happy to get into Satanism and how that's going during the back and forth. I believe that you're a LaVeyan Satanist. You can nod your head if that's true.
We can cover that later, but technically, yes.
And Mammon, I'm assuming, is not your last name, your real
Correct.
last name? Okay. So yeah, Mammon is a demon that appears in Christian and Jewish demonology. It's the complete antithesis to God. So he's a demon whose role is to make humans stay away from the religious path or the righteous path and away from God and give themselves up to the vices of money and material possession. So that is basically who these people worship. So tonight's debate isn't about whether or not God exists or whether or not secular humanism is true. That's a discussion for another time. What's at stake here is a more practical question of what is better for society. Which worldview leads to greater human flourishing, stronger moral frameworks, and sustainable societal progress? The secular humanists, however, will often try and pivot to the Sky Daddy arguments, but that's really not a strong argument anyway. Let's begin by examining the twin foundations of secular humanism, that God does not exist and that human beings are the foundation of moral value. This is a bold position, and it's one that requires a strong justification. When somebody claims to be an atheist, they're not just saying, I don't believe in God. They're making an epistemic claim. They're making a claim about knowledge, truth, and the very nature of existence. Simply saying I'm not convinced by the evidence is insufficient. Atheism requires a deeper justification. It requires the individual to actively engage with the question of whether God's existence can be falsified. The burden of proof lies on them, not just the religion.
Yeah, because I've covered before, they always like to make it out to be that, well, atheism is just the disbelief in God, but no, there has to be more presuppositions to your worldview that led you to that claim. You just don't out of nowhere just say, oh, God doesn't exist. Most of them point to evidence. I just don't see the evidence. I just don't see the evidence. Well, you would have to justify why we need evidence to believe in something. Like, why is evidentialism true? So yeah, it's really annoying when they're like, oh, atheism isn't a worldview. Yes, atheism is a worldview. Everybody has a worldview. Some people just understand their worldview a little bit better than others. And sometimes that's okay. But if you're going to argue these positions, you should know what your worldview is. I mean, come on. It's just being a decent person.
Just person. Now, secular humanism may try to sidestep the existential trap of nihilism by asserting that human life can still have meaning and purpose, even though we are accidental byproducts of blind evolutionary process in a vast indifferent universe. Despite the inevitability of human extinction and the heat death of the universe, where we will all be reduced to entropy, secular humanists argue that we can still create meaning in the here and now. But here's the problem. If God does not exist, secular humanism is bullshit. We are just random sacks of meat and random sacks of meat and goo. Secular humanism ultimately collapses under its own weight. Human dignity and moral worth become illusory. Mm-hmm. If we're merely biological accidents, then why does any of this matter? Alternatively, if God does exist and we are made in his image, then secular humanism is also bullshit. The very basis for human dignity and moral value is undermined because in a world without God, all those moral values become arbitrary and ultimately meaningless. But as I said, we're not debating the truth claims tonight. We're focused on what is better for society. And here's where things get tricky for secular humanists. So secular humanists often point to the science and cultural progress as proof of their worldview's superiority. But saying this is like saying I boiled the kettle today, therefore I am superior to Isaac Newton. The truth is that the very idea of rational and orderly universe, something that could be understood through reason and observation, originated from a Christian worldview. Christianity was pivotal in shaping Western thought. Thinkers like Isaac Newton and Johannes Kepler were devout Christians. They laid the groundwork for modern science. The idea that nature operates according to consistent...
And now atheists have gone and just ruined all that by asserting pseudoscience as science. And most of these people that make the claim that, oh, I follow the science. I trust the science. We should look to science for how we ought to live our lives. Which is the most absurd thing ever. You know, science can only give you descriptive claims, statements, something like that. And if you understand David Hume's as-ought distinction, you know, just because something is true doesn't make it to be the case that it ought be true. And then it gets further humorous when these people make these claims like, oh, I trust the science. I like science. I follow the science. And then they don't even know what the scientific method is. You know, science is just like, you know, like guys in lab coats and, you know, they mess with beakers and stuff. And they just tell us what to do.
Yeah, I mean, the CDC is like this whole governmental body with scientists and shit that just tell us what to do. You don't have to think about it, dude.
Yeah, then you get guys like that. You know, the guys in the lab coat just tell us what to believe. And they criticize us. Okay.
Discoverable laws was born from the belief that the universe was created by a rational God. In addition, Western culture, including its art, philosophy, and institutions, is profoundly shaped by Christianity. The Renaissance, widely considered a cultural rebirth, was deeply influenced by Christian thought and patronage. Artists like Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and Raphael created masterpieces that explored Christian themes and reflected the Christian understanding of humanity and creation. The Christian tradition also contributed significantly to the development of Western philosophy. Thinkers like Augustine, Thomas Aquinas, Dante, Descartes, Pascal, Kierkegaard, Chesterton, C.S. Lewis, shaping the intellectual foundations of the West. Who can secular humanism point to? Matt Dillahunty? Christianity gives rise to the scientific
Matt Dillamonkey
and modern universities. Institutions like Oxford, Cambridge, University of Paris were all founded by Christian institutions with the express goal of seeking knowledge and truth. Now, I could go on all day about the many positive contributions of Christianity to society, things like charity, the fact that Christians are statistically happier, less prone to offing themselves, the concept of inherent human dignity that led to the abolition of slavery. I could point to Christianity's role in ending barbaric rituals all around the world, like child sacrifice, and how Christian ethics elevated sexual morality and human rights. But there's simply not enough time for all of that tonight. The fact of the matter is that secular humanism is ultimately arbitrary. It has no justification for its very philosophical tenets, reason, ethics, or justice. Without God, these concepts lose their grounding. If we are nothing but accidents of nature, then what basis do the secular humanists have for their moral frameworks? They're essentially self-constructed, lacking any objective grounding. Secular humanism is ultimately short-sighted. It's obsessed with the individual autonomy and the freedom, but this comes at a cost. The very focus of individual rights and personal freedom has led to declining birth rates in secular societies. Secular humanists can't even reproduce themselves. Their worldview lacks the long-term vision necessary to ensure societal survival. This is a problem for any civilization, but especially for the ones that champion human rights and progress. So, when we're looking at what is better for society, we need a society to measure. Without values that transcend the individual and the short term, secular humanism is ultimately not equipped to even survive, let alone form anything that remotely rivals the achievements of Christian societies. With that,
these arguments are on fire.
Thank you very much for that opening. We're going to jump into the open dialogue. I want to give you a couple of quick housekeeping reminders, folks. If you haven't yet, hit that like button. We appreciate your support of these debates.
Speed this up.
And with that, thank you very much,
If
gentlemen.
not, I'm going to be here
all yours.
forever.
Yeah, I'd like to understand a little bit about...
Hey everybody, tonight we're debating Christianity versus secular humanism, and we're starting right now with Jared's opening statement. Thanks so much for being with us.
That just
Jared,
sounds so much better.
Thanks a lot for having me, James. I appreciate it. Jake, nice to meet you. Looking forward to having a good and intelligent discussion here of what is better for society. Which worldview leads to greater human flourishing, stronger moral frameworks, and sustainable societal progress? The secular humanist by Christian thought and patronage.
Let's try to get... I gotta wait for where James is talking again. There we go.
And with that, thank you very much, gentlemen. The floor is all yours. Yeah, I'd like to understand a little bit about your own view, if that's okay, Jared. So you say that you are a Satanist, but also a secular humanist. Can you please explain to me how those two things can be married?
I'm gonna slow it down a little bit because it's a little too fast.
Hey everybody, tonight we're debating... I like it, so I mean, you don't have to sell me. Reminders, folks, if you haven't yet, hit that like button. We appreciate your support of these debates. And with that, thank you very much, gentlemen. The floor is all yours.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to understand a little bit about your own view, if that's okay, Jared. So you say that you are a Satanist, but also a secular humanist. Can you please explain to me how those two things can be married? Satanism is a non-theistic religion. So I heard something earlier at the beginning. It sounded like you mentioned the worship of Mammon. We don't worship anything. We place ourselves at the center of our universe. We are our own figurative gods. Why do you
Okay, then you do worship something. It's just yourself. If you're placing yourself above all else, that's you worshiping. Like you even just said it. Like we're gods. You were that's all Satan. That's all Satanism is. It's just self-worship.
Mammon, then, if I can just interject, why do you call yourself Mammon if you don't worship Mammon? I had a career in finance. You were right about it being about the deity, the demon as far as finance. So I had a career in finance, and I used it as an alias. But Mammon is the antithesis of God. Mammon is the rejection of the righteous path in terms of the Christian doctrine, and it's the submission to basically greed.
Yeah, but he just likes the greed part.
Well, I already like it, so I mean, you don't have to tell me. I already like it. Explain that to me. Explain how you marry that with the secular humanist perspective.
Well, I do want to. I'll give you a really quick chance to respond, Jared, because since the question was already asked, I want to give you a chance to answer. But I also do want to make sure that we go back to Christianity or secular humanism per se in terms of their effects for society.
I really didn't like James doing this, like, because to say that secular humanism is better for society and he's a Satanist. Like, secular humanism is supposed to be about, you know, the broad scope of humanity and, you know, supposedly looking out for their best interests, but the Satanist is only looking out for their best interests. Like, that's, like, especially with mammon and, you know, greed. But, you know, Jake's going to get him on this. I just didn't like him doing it. You know, it's fundamental to the argument. Like, if you're going to say, like, what's better for society, we have to get into what your standard of better even is. So it's kind of pivotal to the arguments.
So go ahead, Jared.
I think this is important, though, because we're looking at the actual foundation of his worldview in terms of how the Satanism and Mammon and secular humanism all merges together. And it helps me to understand. Well, they don't necessarily merge together. Not every secular humanist is going to agree with everything the way I do. That part is going to...
And that's the problem with secular humanism. Like, you guys don't have a cohesive standard. Like, there's no normative authority to tell you what is and is not secular humanism. Kind of a bit of an issue there, bud.
So,
gentlemen, I just
what
want to
James is saying, I would just keep it on task.
Well, I don't want to interrupt you, Jared, because I do want to give you a chance to. I know that you do you feel like you had enough time to respond there. I don't mean to cut you off, Jared.
No, that's fine.
I just don't want this to turn into a debate on the nomenclature. I'll give you guys a little bit, like a couple more minutes to cover this, but then I do want to be sure we go to like the effects on society. So continue with this topic for just a couple more minutes.
Yeah, this is important though, because when you're looking at the idea of Satanism and Levian Satanism and the idea of Mammon and what Mammon represents versus secular humanism, what you're looking at is greed and lust and self-indulgence on one hand, and then secular humanists, they claim to want the greater good, they claim to want rationality, justice, etc. So I actually need to understand this for the debate moving forward. Well, Satanists want the exact same thing. We want rationality, we want all that as well. We just don't see greed necessarily as a bad thing. It can be, but greed is what motivates every economy. Keeping up with the Joneses is what inspires people to work harder. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, it can be a problem, absolutely.
No, greed is not what drives the economy. That's stupid. It's not. Like, people being greedy means that they want the money at the cost of everybody else. Like, no, it's got to be my money. Like, greed is not just, hey, we got to make money. Like, it's not greedy for me to try to work as many hours as I can so I can make bigger paychecks. You know, that's not greed. That's me wanting to make more money, but it's not like at the expense of other people. Like, greed is always just like self-interest and all that. So no, that's just stupid. See, this is why it's fundamental when you're having like these debates and conversations, is that you lay out like what these terms mean, because you can't, like, so many people, I see so many like these atheists, and I mean there's Christians that do it too, but I mean so many people go into debates, I've noticed, thinking that like everybody agrees on all these terms. But no, that's kind of like why I'm doing this podcast about like the differing worldviews and all that stuff. You know, we all have different ideas based on our presuppositions from our worldview on what all these terms mean. So no, greed, it's not greed that is driving the economy. Like, greed is bad. Greed is just your self-interest. You want to get money at all cost. Just dumb.
Lust. That's how the planet, the population grows.
Again,
and
lust.
It's frankly
no.
fun. As long as it's between consenting adults. Who cares? You think
Yeah. This is going to come up later, but it like he adds in that caveat, as long as they're consenting adults. Why do they have to be consenting adults? Like, you're just asserting that.
Is how the planet grows? well, through sex, lust leading to sexual intercourse, reproduction. Well, I mean, if you look at secular societies right now, the lust is at an all-time high. People are having more degenerate sex than ever, but the birth rate's at an all-time low. How does that work? Which secular societies are you referring to? I'm referring to the entire West, all of the Western societies that are below replacement rate. That are below. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Are below what? Replacement rate. So we need a replacement rate. Do you know that we're below replacement rate? I haven't done the research on that.
And again, like lust is not necessarily, hey, I want to make babies. Lust is just, hey, I want to get my rocks off. You know, I want to do some cumin. It's like lust is not driving, you know, family building and creating babies. That's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. What a dummy.
I'll quickly explain it. So basically, if you want to replace your society, you need to have a birth rate of 2.1 per woman. All of the Western societies at the moment, if you look at United States, you look at United Kingdom, Australia, the Western European countries, etc., they're all below replacement rate. Some of them significantly below replacement rate. However, marriage, divorce rate is at an all-time high. Marriage, the institution of marriage is worse than it's ever been. People are having more promiscuous sex than they've ever had. More indulgence, more lust, more greed. So
I can't remember if he mentioned this. I did hear it come up in another debate, so I don't know if it was this one or if I'm remembering it from another debate that I was watching. But they like to say like how Christians have like the same divorce rate as secular atheists. But when you actually look into the studies on this, it shows that practicing Christians, you know, people that don't just say, "Oh yeah, I believe in God." I mean, I don't do anything really religious, you know. I hardly ever go to church, you know. But I believe, so I'll say I'm a Christian. But practicing Christians, people who are going to church all the time and they're participating in the sacraments, like very, very small amount of them actually get divorced. Just saying. Very, very low divorce rate among practicing Christians. And maybe even Islam and other religions, but like I'll just state that like practicing theists, when they're practicing their religion, divorce at significantly lower rates than just people who identify as religious. But go on.
Doesn't appear as though that lust is fueling human civilization.
No, because it doesn't.
I'm sure the people that you just referred to would disagree. If they're having more positive experiences, what you just did there is basically assume that it was all bad, and we don't know that. I just took your claim because your claim was that lust fuels human civilization, and I told you that lust is at an all-time high today. People are more lustful than they've ever been. We're having more degenerate sex, more abortion, there's more STDs, there's more children outside of wedlock, and our replacement rate is lower than it has been, and it's declining. So I'm just refuting your claim. It doesn't mean it's not fuel.
It is basically because this guy is going off of false assumptions of what greed and lust mean. Like wanting to gain income and wanting to create a family is not the same thing as lust and greed. It's just stupid. It's just stupid, bud. Like I didn't think that I would have to do this already, but you know, you gotta have it. Oh, I got it locked. Boom. Like,
just because it's not being successful at replacing itself doesn't mean that's exactly what it would mean. That's exactly what that would mean. Okay, I'm going to disagree with you on that one, but it could still motivate people. Either way, it really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I don't see quite how that matters as far as the main topic. So the main topic is, it's actually fundamental to the main topic, because the main topic is what's better for human civilization, right? And your view as a Satanist and as a secular humanist is that that individual autonomy is the most important, but then with Satanism, it's about greed and it's about lust. And that's what the figure of Mammon actually represents, is it represents greed, right? And then you said that lust is good because lust, it spurs on population growth and it helps population to thrive. And then that's obviously not true with the trends that we're seeing at the moment. So if we're talking about civilizational progress, we need to have a civilization. So one of the big problems that we've got at the moment is that these countries in the West are all below replacement rate. So what's your prescription, according to secular humanism or according to Satanism, about how we remedy that problem? Well, this doesn't even come up in Satanism, so I'm just going to leave that completely out. With secular humanism, my prescription is not necessarily that this is a problem at this point that needs to be fixed. I don't. There's people here. There's plenty of people on the planet. We have more people than we've ever had before. I don't think it's even a problem as of yet. But
See, like, just because we have a lot of people right now, what the argument of this is that we have declining birth rates. So that means we're not gonna deal with the effects of that right now. But like 50 to 100 years from now, yeah, we're gonna feel it. We're gonna feel it. Like our children and their children, yeah, it's probably not gonna be good for them. But especially since he's a Satanist and he's all about that greed and lust. It's just self-indulgence and hedonic pleasures.
I want to jump back. I didn't say that lust does fuel. I said it can fuel. There's a small separation there. Lust can fuel. How can it fuel the repopulation? I mean, if it's leading towards sex, and even one person becomes pregnant, isn't that not? I've just laid out for you why that's not happening, and why we're living in a more lustful society. There's more pornography. There's more OnlyFans. There's more children outside of wedlock. There's more promiscuous sex. People are pair bonding far less. But our civilization is in decline. So please tell me. I just want to make sure I understand. It's not happening. It's not happening.
Women are also murdering their babies at higher rates, Just saying.
What's not happening? Lust is no one's. You're saying it's not happening. I'm saying that it is. I'm quite certain. Lust is happening. That's what I'm saying. Lust is happening. There's a lot more lust in today's society. And no, it doesn't, because we are having a declining birth rate. So the evidence is not in your. Is the birth rate greater than 0? But you have to have a replacement birth rate of 2.1 to replace your population. Now we're on a different subject. I said that it's the same subject. It's happening.
Yeah, so you're just completely ignoring the argument. He's not talking about whether or not babies are being born. He's talking about whether or not they're being born at a rate that can replace our current population. Because I know this might seem like a bizarre idea, but we need people for our society to function. Absent people, there's no society. All these wonderful things that we like, technology, heat, refrigeration, it takes people to make that stuff work. It's not just magic coming into your house. It takes people. Mostly men.
No, you're talking about replacing the birth rate. I'm talking about just having a birth rate. It's two totally different things. To replace your population, you need to have a 2.1 birth rate.
Yeah, so that just means you're not paying attention to the argument.
We've had this throughout human civilization. I mean, there are examples of where it hasn't happened and it has gone pretty badly. But right now we are below the replacement rate. And if this continues, then our societies will eventually go extinct. That is the natural conclusion of it. So in order to replace your society, in order to have a society at all, you need to have a replacement birth rate. So you said that lust can help with this. Lust is obviously not helping with this because we live in.
And we can also see that extinction is a possibility if your birth rate gets too low. We can see this with animals that go extinct. As your birth rate gets to too low of a population, nothing you do is going to produce enough babies to restore your population. So. Yeah, if our birth rate goes down far enough, we could face extinction. But I mean we gotta have our bodily autonomy right now. We gotta be able to comb.
A more lustful society, and the birth rates are declining. So what is your prescription as a secular humanist or Satanist, whatever that sort of little strange bedfellows is that you've got going on over there, for how we can remedy this? Again, I'm saying that it can. You seem to be focusing in on that word. It can help. How? It doesn't necessarily. How? Again, I mean, lust motivates people to have sex. Sex leads to having babies. Okay, so we're seeing more lust today, and we've got. You seem to be more focused on the birth rate, and I'm not. Well, in order to have a civilization, you need to have babies, and you need to have your population replaced. So that's why it's kind of important. Otherwise, we don't have a civilization to talk about. Lust contributes.
Not always. Lust can just lead to you just trying to find pleasure with whatever you can grab to give you pleasure. I mean, how dumb are you? It's not lust. It's not lust that drives that. Lust just means I want the pleasure. But it doesn't want any of the responsibilities following that pleasure. You dummy.
I feel like we're getting.
Lust does not contribute. Lust contributes to degeneracy, and like I said, it creates more abortions. It creates more sex outside of wedlock. It's worse for pair bonding. There's many studies that show that people who have more sexual partners will have less successful marriages. It breaks down the family institution. So what's actually your counter? Because you're just saying it helps because it helps. How does it help?
I don't think it automatically does the things that you said. I think it's not mutually exclusive. I think it can do both. There's plenty of people who are happily married and lustful towards each other. That doesn't mean lust is bad. I mean, people having sex in marriage is different to like a widespread phenomenon of like lust and greed and degeneracy in society, right? Would you consider married couples that were lustful towards each other a form of lust, or are you excluding that?
Yeah, sure. You can look at your wife's ass and want to just slap it, in a lustful way.
There you go.
Yeah. But
a form of hitting your wife that nobody would complain about. Well, maybe some people, but they can shut the hell up.
So I think it's much bigger than that, right? It is. That's my point.
She likes it.
So I don't see how we can say that it is a blanket statement that it's not helping. That would imply that there's absolutely nothing. There's no lustful activity that leads to any type of reproduction. Now, it might not lead to enough, but that's different.
Right. So, I mean, I kind of get what you're saying here. You're saying that if somebody in the sanctity of marriage, in the marital institution, they're lustful towards each other, they're going to put penis in vagina and they're going to make baby. I understand that, and I think that it's okay to find your wife sexy and to want to have sex with her. However, if you look at lust and greed, because before you said I'm sold on that, lust, greed, fantastic. If you look at that on a societal level as what should govern people's lives, the desire to want to just fulfill your own sort of internal void of lust and greed, then how does that help anything on the societal level?
All that
what does that actually achieve?
It's just desire.
Seems like there's a bit to unpack there. So how is lust and greed good? It's a tool. Tools can be used in multiple different ways. You could use these for absolutely horrible and atrocious things. You can also use them as inspiration. It's really up to the individual. So if a person sees somebody down the road with a much better car and they're jealous and they want to pursue that, there's nothing wrong with that as long as they're not hurting anyone.
But should they? Should they pursue that? Should they? We know that they can, but should they?
The same if someone wants to be lustful and go after one sexual partner or multiple or whatever. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that as long as everyone's consenting. Consenting adults, of course, I should say. So, I guess. Look,
just assert it again.
So you would say you'd call yourself a secular humanist. Would you prescribe which manifesto would you prescribe yourself to?
I actually don't. I don't necessarily prescribe myself. Secular humanism isn't what I would put at the top of my list as far as things that identify with me. I just think it's still a more defendable position than any theism.
So we need to get some definition of that. What do you think secular humanism is?
Secular humanism. We're talking about humanistic focus. Obviously secular, not having any type of connection with any religion. Focusing on human needs as opposed to spiritual or anything of that nature.
Have you read the Secular Humanist Manifesto?
No.
You haven't even read it? You haven't even read it, and you're defending secular humanism. I just have a basic idea of what it is. So I feel qualified to, jump in the ring and defend it, even though I don't know their actual arguments. They're not sending their best. Well,
this is a big problem, because if you're talking about secular humanism and you want to debate secular humanism, then you should probably know what the fuck they actually say. I mean, secular humanism has 3 manifestos, and the manifestos all abrogate themselves. So you've got an actual doctrine of secular humanism. But if you don't know that, then we actually can't really dive into secular humanist prescriptions from your view. You're just sort of making it up as you go, so it's arbitrary.
I think it's arbitrary anyway. At the end of the day, it's going to be arbitrary anyway. I still, at the end of the day, don't.
The first true thing that he said that I can agree with, even if he did know all the tenets of secular humanism and he had read the manifesto, it's still all arbitrary. It's humans coming together and essentially saying, this is what we think would be good for society, so this is what we should do. But it's arbitrary.
I think that
no matter what the focus is or whatever hole you want to poke into secular humanism, it still doesn't promote Christianity as far as any type of benefit for society. The things you pointed out, I would attribute to individuals as opposed to religion. I wouldn't say that any of the things that you pointed out in your intro were specifically responsible for Christianity. Those were things that individuals did. They just happened to be Christian. So we could poke holes at secular humanism, but we still haven't really promoted on how Christianity and why Christianity over anyone else, why Christianity over Buddhism or Islam or anything of that nature. What makes, and then what kind of Christianity? I mean, there's multiple different doctrines within the Christian faith. So which one, just so I can understand your point of view, what do you consider yourself? What kind of Christian? I think it's kind of irrelevant to the point, because what we're looking at in the debate is we're looking at the effects of it on society.
There's different expressions of Christianity. I'll agree with that. But there's only one Christianity. Just because multiple people say that they have the true Christianity does not mean that there's multiple forms of Christianity. There's only one. There's only one. And it's orthodoxy. Become orthodox.
Society. So we can look at Christian cultures, and some of them are Protestant, and some of them are Orthodox, and some of them are Catholic, and we can just sort of measure the effects on the society as compared to secular societies, for example. So are you taking all of them? Like all of the Christians, or are you just lumping it all into one and basically calling that your team, so to speak? Well, I think that in terms of the debate, it's important that we look at Christianity, like the holistic aspect of Christianity. Because if you go to a place like Armenia, for example, they're going to be primarily Orthodox, but they're going to have big Catholic sects, etc. If you go to places like Western Europe, they're probably going to be Protestant, but they're going to have a lot of Catholics. So if we get into the minutiae of it, perhaps there is a debate to be had there. But I think that you have to kind of look at it holistically and the effect that Christianity, since the birth of the church, has had on culture. But one of the things I think is really important is for us to actually dive into, like, what is actually good? What is the good? That's an interesting topic. For me, good is that which benefits me and holds that which I value and esteem. Bad is that which harms me. Okay, so are you looking at it just from your own personal perspective, or are you looking at this from like a societal perspective and what's better for society? Now, in that case, I do look at it as both. I believe rational self-interest is better than any type of theism. Rational self-interest is what's going to prevent someone from flying planes into a building, things of that nature. You've never seen anyone strap a bomb to their chest and do it for themselves. That's just not going to happen. I think rational self-interest and egoism is far superior to any of that. I would argue that one of the flaws of secular humanism is it doesn't have enough of it. I don't think you really know what secular humanism is, though. That's the problem. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're debating from the perspective, apparently, of secular humanism, but you're a Satanist, and you have to understand that those two things aren't really compatible, because Satanism is looking at lust and greed and self-interest and self-desire as the foremost. It's like, I'm going to do whatever basically gets my rocks off. Whereas secular humanism is giving descriptive claims about rationality and justice, and it's talking more about societal implications of these things. You're right, there is a difference there. And I do lean far more towards the Satanist side. It's not whatever gets my rocks off, though. That's a weird generalization. But yes, as far as the secular humanism is concerned, I do lean more towards Satanism. That's why I said in my intro that I don't think secular humanism is perfect. That was the choice of topics that I had to pick, and that's the one I went with. But personally, I do think that rational self-interest, egoism, all of that, Satanism, works better for me, I would say, but I don't think it works better for society as a whole. Not everyone should be a Satanist. That would be ridiculous. Okay, so you're saying that...
Zero people should be Satanist. Zero. Zilch. Nada. None of you. Stop it. It's retarded.
That Satanism, and I think we have to sort of tie it into secular humanism, but your perspective on this debate doesn't work for society. Repeat that, I'm sorry. So you're saying that your perspective, the worldview that you're arguing from, which is this little sort of marriage of Satanism and secular humanism, that doesn't work on a societal level. No, what I'm saying is that Satanism doesn't work on a societal level. That wouldn't be, you wouldn't want to see the entire society, everyone being a Satanist. That if it was, I would stop doing it myself. That's too much of a form of collectivism and herd mentality. We absolutely would not want anything to do with that. I put this.
Why would herd mentality be wrong? I mean, wouldn't it make society a little bit easier if we could all agree on a common view, a common worldview? So why would that be bad? Well, because then I can't do what I want. I gotta be able to do what I want. Me. I. Selfish.
Same type of herd mentality on theism, any and all theism, for the same reasons. I also don't have any type of cause greater than myself or the things that I care about. That's going to conflict with secular humanism a little bit, and that's what's going to make my position a little bit difficult. But as I said, I had a choice of subjects to pick from, so I'm doing the best I can with that. So you're saying that
I'll give him that. If like he had to choose this, and he just wanted to jump into a debate. Okay, bud. But still, a little bit of preparation. Is it too much to ask? I mean, you should always go into a debate prepared. I mean, yeah, sure, sometimes debates just like pop off, but if you're gonna go on to like a channel like this where they try to do something a little more formal, not necessarily like formal debates, but you should at least be a little prepared. Just my little input.
Interest and egoism, etc. That is what works best for you and what makes you happy, but you wouldn't want everybody doing that.
No, I said Satanism. I do think that rational self-interest and egoism would work better for everybody if everyone cared a little bit more about themselves. I do. That's
I'm glad
that's
that
not
you
necessarily
think
the same thing as Satanism. Those are two. While they have a lot of overlap, there are differences. I do think that rational self-interest and egoism would be a much better benefit for society than any of it.
Right. So then, what would be the problem with me and a bunch of Christians getting together and saying that we want to take power because it's what's in our self-interests? We have a majority. We're going to take power, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, I did say rational self-interest and taking power. That just strikes me as not very rational. And then on top of that, I mean,
what? How is taking power not rational? That just doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. You know, you want to see society shaped a certain way. Seems like the rational thing to do is to take the power.
Why is it not rational? Because you're taking power from who and to do what? Like, what would be your end goal in this hypothetical?
We're going to use the institutions of the government. We're going to use this democracy. We're going to take the power, and then we're going to influence culture to as much as we possibly can in a Christian direction. What would be the problem with
that? It's already happening. That's been happening for thousands of years. So I'm not sure how you're going to make it worse. What would be the problem with that?
Yeah.
I'm actually okay with it up until the point when you start forcing your religion on someone else. The moment you start forcing others to do things, that's where I have a
Well, why would that be bad? Huh?
problem with it. Because now your self-interest has become a community interest.
Right, well, what things though? But that's my self-interest though, so that's what I want to do. So like, what's actually the problem?
That's yours, but that's not mine. My freedom doesn't end where yours, starts, so to speak. You don't get to overlap on, impede on mine.
But it's in my self-interest to make you guys live in a way that aligns with Christian ethics. So like, what's the problem with that? That's my self-interest.
I would think that if a person really thought that, I'd think they were delusional. That's solipsism. That makes no sense. There's nothing rational about that. Well, maybe solipsism. It's not quite the right word, but it's still what you're doing is you're forcing your will onto others. That's not rational.
Yeah, but you're saying that egoism and self-interest is the best thing to do for yourself, right? So
forcing your will on others is always wrong. Interesting. So if you see somebody committing a crime, they don't necessarily see it as a crime, but you do. Should you stop them from doing that? Because that would be forcing your will on them. They don't see anything wrong with it, but you do. Like dealing drugs. Like some people think, hey, that's perfectly fine. That's how I make my money. But other people don't agree with it, and they throw them in prison. Like that's forcing their will onto them. Is that okay? Huh?
Self-interest is to have a society that is abiding by Christian ethics, right? So
we want that person is mentally unstable.
Yeah, but you have to give a justification. You can't just sort of say pejoratives. So, I mean, if we wanted to take power and say, you know what, we're going to influence the institutions of the government to try and have a Christian society, what would actually be the problem with that? Instead of just saying it's delusional, like, what's the actual problem with that?
The problem is not everyone's a Christian. I don't think you should be forcing anything on the people who don't accept that title.
Okay,
I wouldn't do that.
I'm not going to make you like sort of.
And that's a bit of a mischaracterization of like what Christian nationalism is saying. Like we're not trying to force the religion on people, but we're going to guide our ethics based on Christianity. So we're not going to say, "Oh, you're in the society now. You have to go to church every Sunday. You got to be there on time. If not, you're going to jail. You got to get baptized or else you're going to jail." It's not what we're saying. It's not what we're saying. We're just going to influence the laws and the ethics in the nation to reflect that of Christian ethics. Nobody's forcing religion on people. That's not what forcing religion on people means. You don't have to become a Christian if we create this Christian society. You're just not going to be able to do your coomerism and all your degenerate nonsense. And you can't tell me what's wrong with that. It's just a whole lot of this. One second. I just feel like it. I don't like it when you do that. Man. Stupid. I'll always love that clip. And it is stupid. And I don't like it. All these degenerates. Real.
I want a Christian society, though, that has Christian values and Christian ethics. What's the problem with that? The problem is if you're forcing that on other people. I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't do that to you with my own religion. I don't find that to be rational at all. I would never do that to you. I would want the freedom to have my own religion, and you can have yours. Right, but you can still... that's more rational. So you can still practice your religion, whatever, but we want to implement a society that follows by Christian ethics, and we want to put mass propaganda into the society about the nuclear family and about loving your neighbor and about nationalism, patriotism, and all of these sort of things. Is there actually a problem with that? Or because according to your worldview, it's pretty much just about your preferences, right? So you're saying that everybody can just do what they want. It's just all about our preferences, and you can have your preference, I'll have my preference. But like, this is my preference. So what's wrong with my preference? Preference is to force other people? No, I'm not forcing anybody to do anything. What you just said you're going to take power and you're going to use that. Why would that be your preference over letting, a live and let live, so to speak? I mean, what I'm talking about is using the institutions of government to create a society where we promote Christian ethics. Right, and why would you want to do that? Well, because I think it's better for society. Yeah, that's still an opinion. Oh,
unlike all the opinions that you stated.
But the moment is, the moment where it becomes a problem is when you start putting it into government. Yeah, but why is that a problem? That's a strange question. I don't even know how to respond to that. It should be obvious in the statement itself. Well, I think that
It should be obvious. Great argument, bud.
I'd probably give a justification for that, because if I wanted to promote a society where we had a healthy nuclear family, where people were sort of more communitarian, they went to church, there was a higher standard of moral decency, people weren't engaging in all sort of sexual degeneracy, I'm actually just curious as to why that's wrong. Well, I don't see anywhere where Christianity actually does that. I know that they claim it. But I mean, and I'm not trying to point out the obvious elephant in the room of, Catholic priests and all that. I think that's a low blow. But realistically, there's nothing about Christianity that's making that happen now. We're not seeing that in any Christian society now. Nothing that you just described is happening anywhere. Well, that's interesting you should say that.
A big problem with that is that a lot of modern Christians today also adopt this libertarian-esque view of the whole live and let live, and it's kind of problematic. Y'all got to stop it. Knock it off. Sick of it.
Because as the rate of Christianity, or people who subscribe to Christianity, people who go to the church, has gone down in the Western world, we've actually seen a massive rise of degeneracy, and we've seen the nuclear family fall apart, and we've seen birth rates decline. Degeneracy, degeneracy I think would be best defined as any sort of cultural practices that degenerate from the good or degenerate from what we would consider a healthy or normal society. That's going to beg the question, what's good? And if you're going by mine, then mine, it's fine. But yours is going to make you're riding the line. You're about to cross a line.
His good is just whatever he thinks is good. The good is the good, man.
You're going to have to make a statement. So you're going to have to make a hard line here. So what is the good? If it's degenerated from the good, what is the good? The good is what is morally righteous, all right. Which is what is morally right. We can't keep doing this infinite reversal. You're going to have to actually state what it is at some point. What is the morally righteous? Well, I think that the morally righteous can be best defined through Christian teachings. I disagree. I completely disagree. So there's where the problem is. What do you think it is then? What do I think what is? The good. What's the good? The good is that which benefits each individual, provided that everyone is a consenting adult. I don't think.
But why? Like why? Why is that good? Like, is that an unchanging eternal standard for what is good? Is it? Huh?
I think it's a fair statement than that. I'm free based on mine. What is the good in my case? So what if I decide it to be? Okay, so there is no good then, is what you're saying. There's no absolutes. If you're talking about like absolutism, no, I don't think that there's anything that's intrinsically good or bad. I think those are terms that we apply to things.
Oh, so how can you even have why even debate on what's better for society? You don't think there's any absolutes. Nothing is absolutely good. Nothing is absolutely bad. You just have your preferences. And people think that this is a better argument than saying that God is our standard for good and evil. It's so stupid.
And what's wrong with my definition then? Well, it's bad for me. Again, we're back on mine. We're back on my version. So what if it's bad for you? It's my preference. Well, so what if it's good for you? I mean, use that same logic in both directions. Yeah, but no, but that's your logic. Your logic is that it's all arbitrary and everybody can just decide what their own.
This is why secularism always just reduces down to force. Whoever has the most force gets to determine what's good. Their whole philosophy is just might makes right. That's all it is.
Good is. So then what the hell's wrong with my preference? The problem is yours is trying to impose on mine, and mine is not trying to impose on yours. So that's the problem. You asked what the problem is, that's the problem.
That's an assertion.
Pardon, I was still on mute. Just to be sure we don't go too far down this rabbit hole of moral, basically meta-ethics. I think it's G.E. Moore. This is a challenge.
See, he does it again. Like, this is pivotal. Pivotal. There we go. This is pivotal to the argument or the debate on what's better for society. If he's going to make the bold statement that there's no absolute good or bad, then how can he even tell us what's ultimately good for society? It's just all his preference. He just prefers it.
Like in philosophy, for virtually every moral theory, or even just on a broader level, moral semantics of like what is the good. I don't want to get too far down this conversation before we go back to the effects on society of both Christianity and secular humanism.
So then all you're going to do is just assume that there's a good and there's a bad. And you're never going to get to like the underpinning definition of what we're actually saying when we say that things are good or bad. Just surface level nonsense. All you get when you do that is just people talking past each other. That's all you get, because we're defining our words differently.
So where do you want to go, James?
I want to have the conversation go toward the topic of what's best for society, Christianity or secular humanism.
Okay, well, I mean, what do you think are the societal problems then, Jared? What are the things that we need to contend with? Societal problems that we need to contend with. For starters, I think far too many people are overly sensitive, but that's a little bit off topic. Far too many people are butthurt over the slightest things anymore. Keeping it close to what we're talking about.
Would you include people who get overly offended by people using the wrong pronouns? Like say like a woman has these huge arms and a big old beard and a purple wig on, and somebody calls her a he. Like, is that overly sensitive?
I would say that the societal problems are when we start imposing our will on others. I think that's really one of the bigger issues out there. What would you consider to be one of the societal problems? Well, I mean, I think that it's actually important to get into what you're saying. So you think that it's a big societal problem when people want to impose their worldview on others? From a government standpoint, yeah. And it's also, let's not make it just important.
It's also a contradiction to say that. To say that you should not impose your worldview on others is imposing your worldview on others, that we ought not impose our worldviews on others. It's an all-around performative contradiction. Like you're just a nonsense machine. You shouldn't do that. Well, you shouldn't tell me that I shouldn't do that. You know what? I agree. It's so stupid.
To get into mine, we do need to get into yours. Fair is fair. Yeah, I'm happy to do that for sure. But what's wrong with that? I mean, if somebody... Well, now we're going to go back to the thing we just left. James just already corrected this direction. This is just going to go back into the definition of what's good and what's bad and how ours is different.
Because it's important.
I've already made it clear that the biggest difference between your view and mine is I won't impose mine on you. You are perfectly happy imposing it on me.
Yes, you will.
So you're basically just saying that there is no correct worldview to have. Everybody can have their own worldview. It's all about your preferences. You decide what's good. You decide what your preferences. Correct according to who? Well, is it wrong to kill somebody? I think so in most cases, yes, except for self-defense. Is that an objective claim? Is it objectively wrong to do that? I don't think it's objectively wrong to do that. I don't think that there's any type of intrinsic right or wrong. I think you're looking at absolutism here, and I don't think there's really any absolute right or wrong. The laws of nature don't work that way. Yeah, well, that's the problem with your worldview, is that it actually falls apart straight away, because if it's not objectively wrong to kill people, if there is no objective truth, then like, why is it wrong for me to kill somebody? The fact that you would have to ask that is alarming, because if the only reason why you're not killing people is based on the fact that you think that it's objectively wrong, then I don't want to have this debate any further. I want you to keep thinking it's objectively wrong, because wow, you're just a murderer on a leash at that point.
Which is exactly why we promote Christian ethics, because, you know, we're capable of making these objective statements where you just said, no, it's not actually wrong. So if you keep on promoting this idea, no, it's not actually wrong, I just prefer you don't do it, well, people might start getting the idea that, well, if it's not actually wrong, then why don't I just do it? I mean, there's nothing absolutely wrong about it. Why don't I just stop? Why don't I just do it? Huh? Bud, you got to get it again. Your head's not in the same place. You gotta wear it again. Like, duh. But no, just tell people it's all subjective. It's all relativistic. You know, there's no good and bad. It's just your preferences. So, I mean, I guess if you prefer to murder people, I mean, who am I to say that you're wrong? Dumbass. Just constantly putting his foot in his mouth.
I mean, I think it's wrong to kill because I don't think it's right to kill. I mean, that's a little bit circular in logic, but I have an intrinsic moral compass.
The bad is the bad, man.
Anywhere else, it comes from me, and then I just don't see anything right about killing
Craig.
Him. I don't need to be told that from any type of an external source. Okay, let me tell you about this little island off of the coast of a place called Papua New Guinea. They call it Cum Warriors. And basically the way that this little cordoned off society works is that the warriors of the tribe will take the little boys at the age of about 7 or so, and they'll inseminate them with semen. They'll put semen in their mouth, and they believe that makes them a warrior. To have the semen of...
This is actually true. Like, they're called the Cum Warriors of Papua New Guinea. You can look it up. Don't worry, I looked it up, and I was really worried looking it up that I was going to see just some abhorrent, horrible things. But you like, there's stories about it. Like, this was a place. And guess who put a stop to it? Christians.
A warrior makes the little boys a good warrior. So the little boys are all for it because they think, fantastic, we're going to become amazing warriors. Can you tell me what's wrong with that? Well, I disagree with all of that as far as being, I don't call any of that.
Well, I'm glad that you disagree with it. Because the reason why this argument right here is such a nail in the coffin of their argument is because they always make the argument for why, you know, it has to be consenting adults, because children are traumatized by this, which I agree they are. But that's not necessarily why it's bad. It's because it's a perversion. But in this particular setting, the kids are not traumatized by it. They're perfectly fine. They think they're going to be big, strong warriors because they're doing this. So if there's no trauma that's being placed on the child, I mean, how can the secularists call it wrong?
Right. As I've mentioned a few times already, I think everyone needs to be consenting adults.
Yeah, but why?
What's actually wrong with that, though? Because they're all happy about it, and they're all cool with it. So what's the problem? What's the problem? I mean, yeah, we're getting back into this whole my definition of right and wrong. I'm telling you that I have my. Yeah, but I mean, we just keep hitting the same point over and over again, and I thought it was pretty clear. I am, one, first and foremost, everyone has to be consenting adults, regardless of what we're doing here. And two,
I'm glad that you're just asserting it. But this is the problem with just asserting a claim. If you don't have any justification, and then you follow it up by saying, hey, I don't believe there's an absolute truth to this matter. You know, things aren't absolutely right or wrong. It's a societal crusher. Like, it's devastating for society. It's horrible. Like, him saying this is just, and so many people believing that this is true. It's just mind-blowing. So yeah, it's a big problem for you to say this, bud.
My sense of right and wrong comes from me. And it doesn't come from any external source. It's not the Bible. It's not God. It's not the, whatever have you. I think that what you just described, what those people on the island are doing is wrong. But can I say that that is objectively wrong? No, I don't think there's objective right or wrong. So you wouldn't stop them from doing it? If they were around me, yeah, I would. If I was in my neighborhood on them? So you'd impose your worldview on them? If it was around me and the people that I care about, yeah, I absolutely would. Because that would violate your worldview on them. In defense, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Good job. Good job. You've earned it, bud. Because guess what you just did? You just contradicted yourself. You said one of the main things is that people shouldn't impose their worldview on others. But when it comes down to something that you find abhorrent, something that you find immoral, it's perfectly fine to impose your worldview. So now why can't we use that same standard from the Christian lens that we find these things to be abhorrent, and we're going to enforce our worldview on other people? Huh? We're just using your standard, bud. Like, we see these things going on, and we think that they're absolutely bad. Now, you want to say that they're absolutely bad, but you know what I'm saying. It's just your standard.
Anything you got for me? Why would you say that Christianity has so much more success, but you overlook all the tons and tons of bad? Do you at least
well, it was Christians that stopped the cum warriors in Papua New Guinea.
There we go. I was waiting for you to say that. So bad. I mean, we have to clear up. If you want to say something, we have to clear it up. So fair enough. What do you consider to be bad? You said that. You said it was bad. So tell me what you mean, and I'll tell you if I think that it was bad. I'm talking about any type of person, any type of war, any type of act, any type of murder in the name of God. Whether the person believed it to be true, whether they were just using an excuse, what have you. But any type of, let's just say a broken law in the United States, just to have some sort of common ground. Would you consider that? Do you even recognize those? Because I mean, in your intro, you gave a list of all these things that are good, but you didn't seem to think that there are anything that's negative happening within Christianity. Is that the case? Yeah. No, I definitely can see that there are Christians who have done bad things. Definitely. Okay, so we agree then. It's not so much there's people. It gets down to the individual. Some people will use a thing, and it might have a better benefit on society, and sometimes it won't. Obviously, I'm willing to bet we both agree that flying planes into the Twin Towers not a good thing for society. I think we would agree with something like that. But I still don't say that. Even though the majority of Muslims didn't do that, I still wouldn't put that as any type of pedestal. I wouldn't put that as any type of benefit on society. I wouldn't do that for Christianity. I wouldn't do that for really any theism. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, still Islam, though. So in terms of Christianity, you'd have to give me examples of how that's happening in the modern world of Christianity. Well, I didn't want to go into specifics. So I don't want to lose topic. But for example, if Christians are against abortion, so they start using their will to end abortion.
Oh, you mean like kind of how when you took issue with those people from Papua New Guinea, you thought that it was absolutely abhorrent that they were doing it. So you wanted to put a stop to it. But us, we find this thing to be absolutely horrible, that all these children are dying. But we're not justified in putting an end to it. See, this is where your worldview contradicts itself. Because you're stupid.
I don't think that would be better for society. If Christians...
Okay, now let's try to get an answer from someone who's not a complete retard. Anyone? Come on, don't be shy.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
For real.
You talk about the unit of marriage. How would you define marriage? Or a positive, a healthy, non-degenerate marriage? Yeah, I would say marriage is an institution that is ordained by God and facilitated by the church, where it's a union between man and woman. There you go. So, what are your thoughts? I don't want to get down the rabbit hole either, but would you consider a marriage between the same sex to be degenerative? I just wouldn't acknowledge that that's a marriage at all.
Real.
Okay. So in that case, you're more than happy to impose your will onto all that.
Yes.
I mean, I would reject it outright that that's a marriage at all. But like, what do you think marriage is? Marriage, I think it's really a union between two adults.
See, this is his problem. He's just assuming that it's that we shouldn't impose our worldview. But that's not the Christian standard. I mean, if we see something bad happening in society, we have the duty to put it into it.
At its most basic. So can me and my buddy get married? Theoretically, yeah, you could. There's nothing stopping you from it now. Can I get married with a broomstick? No, that's not a consenting adult.
Again, just asserting consenting adult.
But marriage is just completely arbitrary then. For the most part, yeah. For the most part, yeah, it is. See, I have a definition of marriage. I think that if you're like a civil union is a different thing from a marriage, but a marriage is a church institution. And it has like definitions. It actually means something. I don't recognize the church the same way you don't recognize same-sex marriage. Yeah, I mean, but your point about abortion though. So why would it be wrong for me to stop babies getting murdered? That seems to me a hard. That presupposes that that's what's happening. That's a presupposition. You're presupposing that abortion is straight all the time, 100% babies getting murdered.
And you're presupposing everything that you think is bad is bad. Duh. Duh.
Oh, so when should abortion not happen? Personally, I don't think it should happen before. I would not have one at the 3rd trimester. Personally, you wouldn't have one. But what my neighbor does is none of my business.
But the 2nd trimester is fine. This is what's wrong with the abortion debate, is that these people just pick these arbitrary lines on where it's just too far, just too far. Like that's why you need a concise point. And for the science lovers, the consensus from science states that life begins at conception. Now, you can get into the semantics on whether or not you think it's a baby, but it's definitely human life. So every single abortion is ending human life. And you just said earlier, we shouldn't be killing people. Hello?
Okay, well, when do you think human life begins? I believe human life begins at birth. The Bible actually supports that too, but most Christians don't realize that.
No,
the Bible actually says that God knew you before you even existed. But it's not referring to when your life began. That's correct. It does say that, but that's not referring to when your life began. Not at all. So, but even if we just look at this,
ignoring your
from
shitty
the
interpretation,
scientific perspective or the secular humanist perspective, when do you think that scientists believe that life begins?
So he said that life begins at birth. So if life doesn't begin until birth, then why do you have a problem with third trimester abortions? If it's not even a life until it's born, a couple inches away from the birth canal, why do you have a problem with it? Is it just this?
I just feel like it. I don't like it when you do that.
Meh. Stupid. It is stupid. Like, holy shit, dude.
That's too broad of a statement. They can have just as many disagreements as anyone else. There's no. So we're not looking at scientific consensus. I mean, if you look at scientific consensus, they're going to tell you, and there's been like extensive studies done with biologists who will say that life begins at conception the moment that the egg is fertilized. So your original question, human life. Do you not believe that? Do you not believe that basically the day before a baby is born, when it's still in the womb, you don't think that that's a human being? You asked me what scientists think, and then you referred to consensus. Consensus is going to imply that there's differences. We can't ask me what all scientists think and then ask about consensus, because scientists don't all agree on that. You can find a scientist that'll say one thing and a scientist that says.
But the consensus, you were appealing to the masses earlier. That's all of what secular humanism is just appealing to the masses, appealing to the majority. The consensus means that a majority of the scientific community agrees with this. You idiot.
Another. Yeah, you can. But generally with science, you test it, you have an observation and a hypothesis, you test it, it's a scientific method. And, when it comes to life and when it comes to biology, it's a pretty established field of science. So, do you take issue with the fact that scientists believe that babies in the womb are human beings, that life has begun? That seems like a little bit of a different question. So no, I don't take issue with them being human beings. I mean, it's not a horse. So it's a human certainly being. Not. Yeah, well, of course. A fetus is a human being. What we're talking about is where life begins. And I don't think life begins. That a fetus is a human being. Your whole worldview is based upon consent. So the baby isn't consenting to being murdered. So how's that right? The baby can't consent to anything. That's the nonsensical statement. Even the Christian Bible says otherwise. The Christian Bible talks about life beginning at birth. That's when God breathed life into you. That's what the miracle of birth is. You were just a shell, you're dust and clay. You just admitted even your worldview doesn't agree with what you just said. But you just admitted to it being a human being. So
this is why I hold the position that not everybody should be allowed to read the Bible, because then you get these goofy statements.
The baby is a human being, and you've just admitted to that. And your whole worldview is based around people consenting. The baby hasn't consented to being murdered. So then how's it wrong? So then how's it wrong for me as a Christian to want to actually come in and say, no, you can't kill this baby? How's that wrong? There's nothing wrong with you wanting to come in and say that. There's something wrong with you stopping it. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with you wanting to come in and say that. Say it all you want, but it's none of your business. But you just said that you would come in and stop the children from being molested, basically. You said if this was on my street in my front yard, I absolutely would. If it was in Papua New Guinea, I wouldn't. It's not, I wouldn't. So now it's
Interesting. So if it's far enough away from you, like you wouldn't care about it. I wonder. Does he take the position that America shouldn't have intervened in World War II? You know, because that was like far away. Those atrocities were happening far away. Allegedly. But those were happening far away. Like, would you advocate that we not get involved in World War II? You know, protecting democracy?
About where it is. What if it's in the street next to you? In the United States? Yeah, I would. If it's in the United States at all. Any type of child molestation, if I could, yeah, I would absolutely help out. Okay, so then that's just completely destroys your logic, because I would want to do the same thing in my country with abortion. I'd want to stop kids from getting murdered. Well, you're talking about want to. No, you can't jump from what would I do to want to. That's two different topics. You said you're asking me. I would.
Okay, sophist. Well, want to and would do are two different things. I would want to stop the molestation, but would I? What? Oh. Jake, you have way more patience than I would with this guy. I would have called him a fucking idiot by now. I mean, just being honest. Just being honest. Like, that's wow.
Stop someone from being molested in the public street next to me. That has nothing to do with abortion. That's not people from killing babies. It's just your logic, man. You're saying that you want to protect children from this sort of thing happening. I didn't say that. I'm saying I want to protect children from being murdered. So you said you'd stop it. I said I'd stop it. My mouth. I didn't say that. Can you see the difference between abortion and a child molestation? Yeah, I can understand that one of them is murdering a child and one of them is molesting a child. But equally, so the logic equally applies. I don't think so. Let's pick one and stick to it. Because the fact that I'm telling you I would stop a child molestation from happening on a sidewalk has nothing to do with my thoughts on abortion. You can't combine those two. That's two different things. Then if you saw the child being murdered, would you stop it? A child? As in a born child?
The point is, you may not see abortion as being that big of a deal, but we do. So the point of the argument is, hey, we see something evil happening, we want to stop it. You find the molestation of children evil, I agree, you want to stop it. We see this as evil as well, we want to stop it. Why is it wrong? Just because you don't think it's evil, like, should we all, like, convene with you before we do anything to determine whether or not, you know, we're justified in what we're doing? Or are you the arbiter of all of our decisions? Well, obviously not, because you don't think anything is objectively immoral. You idiot.
Yeah, I would. Yep. Okay. A born child, I absolutely would. So then, if I saw an abortion happening on the sidewalk, I would have some questions there. So you wouldn't stop that? I would have more concerns about the fact that there's an abortion clinic on the sidewalk. Right. You know.
There practically is.
It's just a crazy example. You've just
practically
said
is.
Human beings, obviously, they're child.
Have you not heard of the vans and buses driving around, like the mobile abortion clinics? Like they're driving, because there are states that have put restrictions on abortions. Thank God. But now there's these like Planned Parenthood is doing this. They're taking these mobile clinics and they're just setting up on the border of the state so people don't have far to drive. And they're just doing it out in the open. Are you okay with that? Huh?
They're children, they're human beings. I've said that I would stop that, and you said that you would stop that as well, them being killed. So there really is no distinction.
Stop that?
Well, I can't. I don't really
Have
have
you done?
the
You said you'd stop it. Have you done it?
If I had the institutional power, I would absolutely stop that.
So now there's an if.
Yeah,
There wasn't
so
one.
you
I didn't
need-
get to have an if.
need-
You do.
Well, I said, would you stop that? I didn't say, had you stopped that? I said,
Okay, would you stop that?
Yeah, absolutely.
In Papua New Guinea, you would go right up there and just stop it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're back to the whole you want to impose your will, and I don't. I think
Yeah,
what they were
You
doing
do.
was wrong
to stop
completely.
people from inseminating children. Strike me down.
I'm not thrilled about it at all. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying for support of what they're doing. I think that's disgusting, to be quite honest. But at the same time, I'm not enforcing my will on anyone.
But it's their will, and they're all happy to do it. So I don't really
Then leave
understand
them alone.
why you even have a problem with it.
That's
Fine,
not
okay,
your
then you're
problem.
okay. Well, then you're
That's not your
happy to.
problem.
Then you're happy to have that. I'm not. I would stop that.
No,
And this is
no,
what Christians
you
have
said
done
I'm
throughout
happy to
history,
have
and
that.
that Christians have done this
That's
throughout the entire
I didn't
world.
say I was happy to have it. I'm just
You
being
said-
realistic. I'm not flying to Papua New Guinea to go stop this. If it's
You
across the
said
street
leave them
from me, that's
alone.
different.
They're actualizing. Leave them alone.
Yeah, no. You're going to tell. You're not. I'm not flying to Papua New Guinea. Neither are you. That's just absurd. If it's
Here, where is it? Boom. He is a sophist. Using deceptive speech. Like he's just constantly contradicting himself. It's so stupid. So stupid.
happening across the street from me, yeah, that's totally different. And if you can't see the difference between that, then that's
Yeah, well, it's meant to.
It's still imposing your worldview. It's still an imposition. Like this, how do you not understand that?
Test your logic. It's not meant to be a claim about what you're actually
right,
going
but your
to do.
scenarios are
material
apples and
reality.
oranges. Your scenarios are apples and oranges. You
Actually,
just
the
narrow
logic,
it down.
the logic actually is pretty. It's just designed to test your logic. If you're willing to
You
do
have
one
too many
thing, you should be willing
variables.
to do the other thing. But
You have too
Christians have
many
done this throughout history, and this is why Christianity.
Geographical location, how far you have to travel to stop it. That's the extra variable that he has a problem with. So stupid.
Is a better worldview for humanity than you guys, because you guys actually wouldn't have really a reason to stop that sort of thing. Whereas Christians have gone around the world and through ministry, they've stopped all sorts of barbaric practices like child sacrifice. They went to India and they stopped all of these sort of pagan rituals of the sati, where the wife jumps into the fire when the husband's body's being burned. They've done this throughout
But
history.
then we're
so-
back to you. You're claiming all the good that individual Christians did, but you're still not acknowledging the bad. I mean, come on. There's no way you think that Christianity is a flawless moral compass right now in the world. There's no way.
The teachings of Christianity are flawless. Yes. The people, yes, are flawed. There's no problem with that. But just because something bad happened from somebody who claimed to be a Christian does not automatically mean Christianity bad.
Yeah, no, I think that human beings are definitely flawed. But the problem that you've got here is that you just said,
Christianity, human
wait a
beings.
second. I just said to you, what are the sort of things that are happening today in society based upon Christianity that are negative for society? And you said to me, abortion. We went through that. Just your logic was dismantled there. And I can't remember.
I didn't say
you said
Christians
something
cause the
else.
abortion.
But I didn't say you said that. You
That's
said
what
you
it
said that
sounds
it was wrong that Christians stop abortion, and then we walked through that logic tree.
Okay, yeah, I do think it's wrong that Christians stop abortion.
Okay, well, I mean, we can relitigate this if we want.
No, we don't need to go back into it again. At the end of the day, every time we start to talk about something, you expand your lasso, so to speak, to include a wider variety of things rather than just staying on topic. For example, if we're going to talk about abortion, we don't really get to jump into Papua New Guinea. I mean, that's a bit strange. And if we're going to talk about child molestation,
It's about the fundamental basis of the argument is the imposition of will. Like, if there's something bad happening, do we have the right? Wouldn't really call it a right, but are we able? Is it immoral to impose our will to stop evil events from happening? That's the basis of the argument. But that's pretty much all I'm going to cover in the debate. Easy Jake W., the Australian rattlesnake. Still don't trust him because he is Australian. And he says, idea. Like Jake. There's no R at the end of idea. It's just idea. Come on, bud. Come on, bud. But no, yeah. It was a good debate. He did a great job wrecking that lunatic. But yeah, that's where secular humanism and all these atheists, they always fall flat, is because they're constantly contradicting themselves. They're constantly coming up with these incoherent statements that don't ever make sense. Like, it's wrong to impose your will on others, unless it's something that, you know, I agree is immoral, and then it's perfectly fine. But if you deem it immoral, you're not allowed to. It's wrong. It's wrong. So stupid. So stupid. But yeah, that's going to be it for the show. It's going to be it for the episode, if you want to call it that. Go ahead and do all the good YouTube stuff. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. And share the video. Share the podcast. Do all that good stuff. You know, like make the likes rain down like hellfire. Still love that animation. It's awesome. Hit the subscribe. Boom. Notification bell. So you'll be notified if you like the content that I'm putting out. If you're enjoying it and you don't get too caught up in the fact that,
What the hell is wrong with you?
I'm retarded. What's wrong with you?
if that doesn't prevent you from watching what I'm doing, then yeah, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when I put up content. Because right now it's not regular. I hope to make it more regular, but you know, right now it's just not in the cards. Just not in the cards. And also, don't forget, head over to Strange with a 3 instead of an E, days.substack.com. Go to my Substack. I've got a lot of articles and stuff that are completely free to you to go read and check out. Also follow me on Twitter or X at r_wing Hoosier, or just look up Ricky Kurtz. I'm on there as well. But yeah, the Substack, show you guys that again. Yeah, go do that. Go do that. But I'm gonna get out of here because I'm tired of looking at all y'all. Goodbye.